this video, we will continue the sale-leaseback topic, but from the buyer's perspective. Therefore, if you are a property owner or want to know how this alternative transaction method can affect your real estate or business, please check the previous video where we focus on the seller's implication on sale-leaseback transactions. Okay, now to recap. In a typical sale-leaseback, the property owner sells the real estate using his business to an unrelated private investor. At the same time, the property is leased back to the seller for a mutually agreed upon time period. The sale-back might include the land and improvements. Lease payments typically are fixed to provide for amortization of the purchase price over the term of the lease plus an specified rate of return on the buyer's investment. The typical transaction usually is a triple net lease arrangement. Sale-leasebacks often include an option for the seller to renew his lease and, in some occasions, to repurchase the property. The buyer usually receives a higher rate of return in a sale-leaseback than in a conventional financing. In addition, at the end of the lease term, the buyer receives the benefit of any appreciation in the value of the property. Finally, the buyer can leverage the purchase with a mortgage financing. This way, it might further magnify the return rate on the cash invested. In the event that the seller defaults under the lease, the buyer can simply terminate the lease and have the seller evicted. Perhaps the biggest risk that the buyer faces is that the seller will default on the lease, which will leave the buyer without a tenant. However, the buyer is secured by the value of the property. In most cases, the seller assumes the responsibility and the expense of the day-to-day property management during the lease term. However, the buyer must make sure that the seller pays for the property taxes on time and that tax assessments are reviewed and challenged when appropriate. The buyer also must periodically review the insurance coverage on the property and inspect it for proper maintenance. That is all for now. If you have more questions about this topic, please feel free to connect with me, either writing at the bottom section of this video or by sending me an email directly. My name is Giovanni Restrepo, and thank you for watching JIO Realtor TV. Until next time.